Big of a group especially. So everybody out there, let's all say, Edie, we love you. Edie, we love you. Edie, you're amongst friends. Okay. Edie is in our college group. Like I said, she lives in our dormitory. And it's just, I wish you could meet every one of the people from the community that are now part of our church. They're just all awesome people. They all have a wonderful story to tell. And so this morning, as Edie shares her story with you, just listen and realize that there's a whole lot of stories very similar to hers out there.
So my name is Edie Peterson. I am 20 years old, and I was raised in Mount Pleasant, Utah, which is about 30 minutes north of Manti. I only lived with my mom and my dad for about a year and a half before they split up. And me and my dad moved in with a couple of my aunts in Salt Lake City, so they kind of helped raise me for a little bit. And then, so my mom moved back to Missouri, and she eventually remarried not too long after that. And I haven't seen her since I was probably 7. We texted and looked at my own talk, so it's kind of a small relationship, but it's nothing personal or anything. And I don't think she was ever LDS or ever raised in the church. So my dad and I lived with a few of my sisters in Salt Lake, and when I was probably about 2.5 or 3, we moved from Mount Pleasant into a trailer park on the north end of town, and I started kindergarten. And then when I was about 4.5, my grandma died, so my dad and I moved in with my grandma on the south end of town on a farm. And that's where my dad still lives, and then when I was 15, my grandma moved out into assisted living. So I was raised by my dad, my grandpa, and a couple of the aunts that lived in town. And all my aunts and my grandpa were LDS, so my dad encouraged me to go to the LDS Church, so I started going, and I was baptized at 8 years old. And I think at that time when I got baptized, I had a faith in it. Like I remember being at my baptism being really happy and being glad to be there. But then when I got older, I didn't want to go to church as much, but then my dad forced me. So I, of course, didn't want to go even more because he forced me. And I would get grounded that week, like the entire week, because I didn't go, and then I had to go the next week in order to get my privileges back to do whatever with my friends. So. And I don't hate my dad for doing that. I know that he was doing what he believed to be the right thing at the time. And I think raising your kids in church is good. So I'm not really opposed to it. I don't have any grudges or anything against him for that. And so I was what you call a Jack Mormon. Does everybody know what a Jack Mormon is? Yeah. For those that don't know, it's basically it says they're Mormon, they go to church on Sunday, but they don't really keep the commandments, or not the commandments really, but they don't keep the church's standards, and they don't really know the church's doctrine, and they yeah, I was a Jack Mormon, and so I partied in high school, but it was like, I partied a little bit, like I drank, but I never like smoked or did drugs, pretty sad. And so I partied enough to think that I was having fun, but not enough to ever get in trouble. And then, it's true, there's been some scary, but I never got in trouble, never got caught. So I partied, and then I would go to church on Sunday. And I guess I was pretending to be worthy because I'd go to church, but I had to go to church. So I was just like, well, I'm here, I guess I'll just pretend like I belong. So, yeah, I was like, I didn't really care if I was worthy or not because I just had to be there. And the larger percent of Mormons that you encounter are Jack Mormons. And some of them don't know like the deep doctrine that they teach. And they're cultural Mormons, and they call themselves, but they don't know the doctrine. And so I didn't do tithing, and I didn't do baptisms for the dead. and I didn't get my Young Womanhood Award, and I don't know, Kim, I was explaining the Young Womanhood Award person, she'd never heard of this, so I'll explain it to you. It's a little book that you get when you're 12 years old and you go into Young Women's, and 12 to 18 is where you can work on it. And you pass off the values, which are faith, divine nature, individual works, knowledge, choice and accountability, good works, integrity, and they added virtue after I left. And they have about 7 or 8 different little things that you pass off in each value. And once you pass those off on the value, you get a little sticker in your book. And then once you pass the entire book off, then you get a necklace, and you get your name in the paper, and you get recognized. And I never did that either. So even though people encourage me, like all my leaders encourage me to. And then I just went to church and didn't learn very much because I didn't really care. So I just was there. So even now, like as a Christian, I'm having to go back and I'm relearning the Bible and I'm relearning the Book of Mormon doctrine because I don't really know any of it. And they don't teach a lot of the church's history there. Like, for example, the Joseph and the 34 Wives, when I heard that as a Christian, I was like, what? I believed in that? Like, so they don't teach that, and they don't teach a lot of old church history. So I graduated from high school in May of 2009, and shortly after, I started dating a guy that I had met from work, and his name was Thompson. He came and he brought me, introduced me at the Solid Rock Cafe to Flick and Gate. They're in the back over there.
Raise your hands, look you.
He introduced me to them, and we started hanging out. It was like the 4 of us all the time. And Flick and Gate were both Christians at the time, and they started witnessing to both of us. And sometime in maybe the end of July, Adam accepted Christ, and then I'll tell you the rest of the story. So one night, Blake and I were going to hang out, and Adam and Jay were going to hang out, and they were going to go and like just be praying for me and stuff. So Blake and I, we went on a walk and we talked and we got filled younger, and then we went back to her apartment, which is the Sled Rock Cafe, which was at the time. And we sat up and talked for, I don't know, a couple of hours, probably until like at least 1 in the morning, and then she was pretty much talking in her sleep at that point, so I told her to go to bed, and I went in. Oh yeah, we had a letter that Adam had written to me, and I don't know where it is. I tried to find it, it didn't work. And it was just a prayer to God, and part of it was like, you know, just what people hope for, and then a prayer to God for me. And so she read that to me, and then a little while later she went to bed, and I went in the small bedroom there, and I sat up against the dresser, and I had the Bible Promise book, the Bible, a book called Sister Creeps, and this notebook. And I sat there and I read and I studied, and I studied I wrote something right after that I'll read to you in a minute, and that I wrote at 2:30 in the morning, so I'm guessing I studied for probably like an hour and a half or so. And I wrote this, and I finally remember I just put everything down, and I leaned my head back against the dresser, and I just sobbed and cried and bawled for at least 20 or 30 minutes, and I told Christ to get out of all. I told Christ to get out of my heart, and that's when I accepted Christ. And I'll read this to you. I actually forgot I had it for a long time. It's what I wrote that night when I accepted Christ. And pardon me because I cry every time I read this, even when I'm by myself. It says, I can't imagine the love God has for me. I can't imagine how me seeking Him must make Him feel. He is changing my heart, and it is unexplainable how happy and grateful and loved I feel right now. I know I have sinned and made mistakes, but He has forgiven me. He has forgotten all the bad and loves me all the same no matter what I do. He is our God, He is unchanging and almighty, and we live to seek His presence and His love and His forgiveness. He will never leave us. He won't forsake us if we do not forsake Him. He is there always in good times and bad. He will help us through anything because He loves us. His love is unconditional and cannot be compared to anything. His presence is incredible and amazing. He is perfect. He is the only perfect being there ever will be, there ever has been, or there ever has been, there is, and there ever will be. We don't have to earn His love, we already have it. That is His incredible gift to us. Everyone has His love. He knows everyone and everything inside out. He knows everyone. He created me. He knows my heart and my soul and my head and my mind, as well as yours. He has a plan for each and every one of us. He knows what we want to do, what we will do, and where we will end up. We have emotions, dreams, passions, knowledge, and love, and many other things because He put them in us to use to seek Him and to know Him and to love Him. Although we will never fully know Him, we can't even begin to imagine how incredible He really is. I wish I knew His heart like He knows mine. I can't wait to be in His presence and feel His glory and grace. I want to worship God. I want to fully accept His love and grace for what it is and He is. I feel like my heart is ready. I feel like I can give my heart fully to Him and He will hold it and let us go. And I just want to make sure. Since I became a Christian, a lot of people that come out of Mormonism and other Christianity get a lot of persecution, and they just get a lot of rejection and stuff. And I actually have not gotten that. Praise God that I haven't gotten as much as others have, because my aunts that I grew up as my mom's and my cousin don't really know much about the church I go to. I know they know that I go to a different church, but they don't know very much about it. And then this fall I'm moving to Denver to go to culinary school. And I'm going to be living with my aunt Sarah and her husband and their one daughter and her kids, and then a couple of her kids live in with a mile range, and they're all LDS. And so I'm going to be living with them, so just keeping your prayers for that. But I went there in February to look at the school, and she dropped me off at the Christian church I wanted to go to. So she's okay with it and accepting of it. My other cousin said if she didn't have to teach in church that day, she would have went to church with me. So I'm hoping that they're really open with it and that I can be able to talk to them and stuff. And God has just been incredible in my life since I accepted Him. It's been a hard struggle because Adam and I weren't the smartest kids when we were dating. It was right after we both accepted Christ. But I've just been learning so much. God has shown me, how much His love, how great His love is, and how,
Amen.
He's just gracious and He's merciful, and He hasn't given me what I deserve. I really deserve everything in the book. And I'm just happy to not be in the Mormon cult anymore. I'm happy to be a Christian. I would never go back. Everybody asks me, they're like, "Would you think about going back?" And I'm like, never. Never in my life.
Well, guys, that's what it's all about. That's what you're doing here. Is you're talking to people on the street that are just like Edie was 2 years ago. A lot of them don't know. They don't really know what their church teaches. They don't really know anything about Christianity. They don't know anything about the love of God. And it's our opportunity, Lord, to share everything with them, to talk to them about those things. And so be sensitive to God, His leading in your conversations, and allow God to